The following is a paid commercial program paid for by McClure Capital Wealth Management Companies and does not reflect the opinions or advice of KRLD or CBS Radio.
Welcome to the Common Sense Investing, or CSI Show, with Victor McClure and Guy Allard from McClure Capital Wealth Management Companies. For the next hour, Victor and Guy will use their combined 60-plus years of experience to answer your financial questions with their own brand of plain-spoken language and hard-hitting style.
Welcome to the Common Sense Investing Show. I'm Victor McClure. Guy Allard, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. Happy Saturday.
That's right. Remember, we've been doing this show for a long time. And what we try to do is give you some information you can use. I had another person, a listener, call me last week and said, you guys all sound similar, but the other guys don't really tell you anything. They just tell you about how to come to a seminar. They might give you one new tip a week, and you guys try to give new tips the whole time. I said, okay, I'm not sure if that's a compliment or what you're trying to go with, but I'll take it.
I didn't know if you were going to start out with that one or the disgruntled listener that we had. Should we talk about the one listener we have that obviously doesn't have enough fiber in his diet?
Oh, no. He was mad because we don't answer the questions live. What we do is we'll call them back next week. My wife, I used to do this show live for years, and my wife said, you're not working 6 days a week.
Oh, I remember being
I
down
need some time with your family. Okay.
At KRLD Studios.
Oh, I drove an hour, 2 hours to work one way and did it 6 days a week.
That's when you were living at the lake, right?
Yeah.
I remember, or back to that situation, I think Sarah was talking with him, who is also our engineer.
That's right. And
was explaining that, it's hard to get the live questions, and we'll get back. And I think one of his concerns was that whatever the financial situation he was in, he was afraid if it took a week to answer the question, it might be too late. No. Try not to let yourself get in that position.
What we'll do is we love to answer your financial questions. Remember, 972-715-2424. We'll usually call you back first thing Monday, Tuesday at the latest. But if the more detail you can leave on the question, the better. 972-715-2424.
And if it's something that is urgent and you'd like to discuss it with us, just call us up. One of us is usually available to answer the question when you call.
You call us during the week. Our office number is 972-960-8700. Again, 972-960-8700. We're here at the Star, the home of the Dallas Cowboys. Let's see. This report just came out of the National Bureau of Economic Research. Sounds like a pretty fancy bureau.
Been doing some light reading lately. It sounds like.
It found that 46% of Americans will die with less than $10,000. If they're single, 46%. They have less if they're single, not married.
And half of them aren't going to have health care, right?
That's right.
Hope I digress.
Right. 57% will end up with the same fate. There's another statistic. Seniors from 65 to 74 have more debt than the average consumer, which is strange, right? The average consumer debt is about $5,600. Seniors between 65 and 74 are average $6,700. So $5,600 to $6,700 is interesting because normally when you get to a certain age, you really try to avoid.
Okay, yeah, everything's paid for. But I'm trying to think about those numbers: $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. That doesn't seem like a lot of debt to me.
Well, no, because we are really mired in consumerism. What we're used to is bigger numbers, because that's what I was going to talk about today's show is baby boomers.
I think the key word is consumer debt, right? They're not talking about homes or...
Yeah, they're talking about consumer debt.
Right.
Well, there's also, they have have mortgages than ever have before. And
right.
A lot of that is, paying for college for kids, all kinds of things. So that's what we're going to talk about, baby boomer psychology. Now, even if you're not a baby boomer, you're a Generation Xer or whatever, some of these things you'll have commonality there. And some of them are interesting to me because what they're saying is boomers don't fall into one category, just like most people don't.
Right.
But there's the early boomers and the late boomers. They're called the leading boomers. They were born 46 to 55. And then you got 56 to 64, where we're the trailing boomers.
Well, fair enough.
But they actually think a little differently. Okay, the leading boomers, that's the older baby boomers, they crossed 65 like 6 years ago. They've had a pretty good life. They credit hard work for their accomplishment. The term workaholic actually came out of this group. I thought it was been around forever, but apparently not. They're very optimistic about their future. They witnessed the summer of love, moon landing, the fall of the Soviet Union, a long-running bull market. As a result of their hard work, now, they feel entitled to the tangible rewards of their success.
Well,
The big houses, expensive cars, big toys for the kids. They're just beginning at this point, around 65 to 70, to start valuing experiences over things. I've been told this a lot. Like I said, that the boomers are more they buy more things than ever in history of anything. They have more toys and
leading
everything
or
else.
trailing?
Both of those.
We were talking at lunch today. How funny about us trailing boomers that in jest, but many a truth is said in jest.
Right.
That we're responsible for all these dang generation millennials because the way we raised them,
That's right,
turned out this terrible generation. Just kidding.
Yeah, we didn't want them to have hardships that we did.
They want to be buddies with them
That's
instead of
right.
having a son, right?
That's right. Well, I worked full time since I was 13. I didn't want my kids to do the same
Right.
thing, but it made it made our character.
So basically, it was a failed experiment.
Well, these leading boomers, having all the things they had and had a pretty good life to this point, they're still under a lot of stress. They should be transitioning into a retired life, but there's still a lot of them burdened with mortgages, credit cards, student loans for their kids. Leaves them very anxious about maintaining their lifestyle in a wobbly economy and an overpriced market.
You're talking about trailing now?
Nope, still talking about leading.
All right.
All right. It's become clear to them they should have saved more on a consistent basis. I think all of us think that way. I don't care how much money you have
right,
or
no matter
didn't.
where you are.
Most people think that way.
Some of the clients I have that spend the least have the most. They
Right.
just don't want to spend a dime.
It's become clear to them. I'm sorry. The first time in history, the leading boomers are discussing their major financial decisions with their millennial children. I thought that this is actually a phenomenon. This first time it's ever happened. In the old days, nobody talked to their kids about financial
I was
decisions.
just going to say that. I was going to ask you because I know my parents did not talk about money. They didn't ask.
No.
You didn't ask them how much the house was. What did you spend on
Absolutely
the car?
not.
How much did you make a week?
Right.
You didn't get that interaction with them growing up, so that it was a gradual transition. Were yours the same way?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But my kids, my 14-year-old,
yeah.
how much do you make?
Yeah.
So and so, Dad makes this. I'm like, what? No,
Yeah.
I'm not telling you any of this stuff.
Yeah. How much is the house? Yeah.
I
that's
know.
right.
How much is the house worth? Why don't we sell it? Why don't we buy
Yeah.
an Xbox with it?
Yeah.
Whatever. But they do
Be a heck of an Xbox, wouldn't it?
a lot of leading boomers. These
Uh-huh.
are 46 to 55. They do not intend to leave an inheritance. Okay, it's consistent with the me generation. That's what they call us, right? But it's a dramatic shift from previous generations. And so leading boomers don't plan on kicking the bucket anytime soon. They consider themselves very fit, active, energetic.
That's
They
me.
hate the terms middle-aged, mature, active adults. Well, we're the trailing boomers. We don't like
Active
those either.
Active adult sounds like a advertisement for a vitamin senior vitamin company or
I
something.
think my son told me, he goes, you're middle-aged. And I'm like, are you cracked? I am not middle-aged.
No,
and
you're
he goes-
past that point.
He goes, are you going to live to be 110 or something? I'm like, I guess I am middle-aged. The one thing that leading boomers, they consider themselves tech-savvy, but they prefer doing business face-to-face or over the phone.
See, I would think that would
Like
be
that personal
trailing
trust.
because leading would be older than us, and we didn't get the education that the younger ones had.
Right. It's different. Like you'll find Generation Xers, millennials, they think it's much more efficient to do things electronically. Even though boomers do things electronically, they still trust the face-to-face, the
And we're
handshake
very
and all
slow to do the banking and the finance.
that. Oh, yeah.
And
It took me a
all
long
that
time to
stuff. It
actually
did.
do that.
It
you
did.
know?
And the people that are older than us, the leading, right, by 10 years, going to take them even longer.
Oh, yeah. Now let's talk a little bit about the trailing boomers. There's a reason I'm going through this, folks. I think psychology is interesting, but it talks about your finances and what you can help you with finances. The trailing boomers they share the same characteristics of ambition, competitiveness, consumerism, but they tend to be more pessimistic than leading boomers. They've seen their mothers go to work, college costs climbing, souring job market, being hit with a recession in their prime earning years. Trailing boomers are more like Generation Xers, more skeptical. They're a little weary, they're convinced that their financial security completely depends on them. Not the government, not a pension, anything. That's who they are. Like, I had never had a pension. Most people don't.
I like that train of thought.
They are deeper in debt than the leading boomers.
Don't like that as much.
They expect to work longer. They're witnessing people working longer and longer. 30% of women between 65 and 69 are still working. 18% over 70 are still working. We got more of this coming up, folks. Then we're going to go over your questions. Remember, if you have any financial questions, you'd like to take advantage of our no cost, no obligation retirement plan, retirement analyzer, stress test, also Social Security optimizer. Don't hesitate to call our hotline at 972-715-2424. Again, 972-715-2424, or you can always go to ilovemyretirement.com. Stay with us, folks. You're listening to the Common Sense Investing Show on News Radio 1080 KRLD.
Welcome to the Common Sense Investing Show, where your investment strategy is always based on facts instead of some sales pitch. Here's Victor McClure and Guy Allard.
Welcome to the show. Today's topic, we're talking about boomers.
Leading and trailing.
That's right. Born 46 to 64. You've got leading boomers from 46 to 55, or 46 to 54, and then 54 to 64.
Are you sure?
Are trailing boomers.
There we go. And we were talking about the trailing boomers.
That's right. We are both trailing boomers, Guy and myself.
That's right. Work longer.
That's right. They're going to work longer. They've witnessed their mothers going to work, people working longer as they go on. Trailing boomers also are going into more debt because of expensive children's college tuition.
No doubt.
Which, like I said, when mine go to college, I'll be retirement age, and 3 more. The first one only went to college about 10 years. I have no idea what these next 3 are.
You're lucky because you almost had 3 more, if I remember, a couple years ago, right. Through adoption.
The thing about that boomers are doing, too, is they're continuing to subsidize their children after college. 3/4, this is 75% of millennials, age 19 to 35, are still receiving financial support from their parents. This is also a completely new thing. Remember when we were kids, you're 18, you're out the door.
And you're happy to be out the door.
That's right.
I mean, living at home in our generation at that age, it was worse than having a roommate. It was much nicer to have a roommate and have your own thing.
I never asked my parents for a penny.
I can't say that.
18 years old. Like I said, I asked my dad one time. No, I can't say it because I did ask.
Exactly.
He told me hell no.
But you asked.
He did co-sign.
You didn't ask twice, right?
Right. Like a $800 furniture so I could furnish my first apartment. I remember that.
Yep.
But it's a different word. Can you play it? 75%.
My folks helped me get a car.
Think about it. 75% of millennials are still getting money from the parents. That's a huge number. These kids, some of them are 35 years old. It's like, trailing boomers are also the sandwich generation, which means you're still supporting children and your parents at the same time, which I'm one of those. I've done that, most of my life. They're witnessing the full retirement age of Social Security being pushed back and probably back even further. Their financial mantra has to just keep treading water. Keep treading water. So there's a lot of stuff they both have in common, both leading and trailing boomers. They aren't loyal to technology, even though they consider themselves tech savvy. They're loyal to people. They expect commitment from their advisors. Like, hey, you need me and I'll be there. They like the handshake, the eye-to-eye, contact. Even in retirement, boomers are both shy. They live busy, overscheduled lives. It's different in the old days. Like I said, I've been a retirement planner for 30 years. And somebody would call me that's retired, and he said, well, can you meet me on Wednesday? I said, no, I'm going to the bank on Wednesday. I'm like, well, how long are you going to be at the bank? They would not schedule anything more than one thing a day.
Well, you got to realize when you're retired, in fairness, you don't want the morning rush hour. You don't want the evening rush hour. You've got lunch in there somewhere and a nap. So I'm with them. The one thing, that's a full day. Am I wrong?
No. One thing is, boomers are much more likely to stick with their retirement plans. they'll stick to adding money to 401ks. If they've got some kind of savings plan, they'll stick to it. Only 23% of millennials will stick to any kind of plan, and they will change it frequently.
And I think millennials, in fairness to them, because we kind of hammered them pretty hard here the last segment and this segment, but they're still fairly young, and they have time to, how we all were when we're young. They've got time to turn things around and get it together.
Don't forget, folks, somebody asked me this the other day. We have ILoveMyRetirement.com, McClureCapital.com. There's also McClureINS.com. It's insurance. It's short for insurance.
Oh, that's not the immigration?
No, it's not immigration. Well, what it is we do your homeowner's insurance, your business insurance of all types, health insurance for your company, all of those kind of things. We're an independent, and so we're going to search all the rates from all the carriers and give you the best one. So you can keep the same advisor, but you may change companies over the years. You'll always have the same advisor.
Yeah, and Victor and I don't do that. We have a division that does that. We're certainly familiar with it and can help craft things, but there's a separate division here that
don't
take care
hesitate
of
to call
that
us.
for you.
The number here is 972-715-2424. Again, 972-715-2424. We'll be more than happy to give you a quote for your business or your personal or whatever. There's a new Fitch report. Fitch is one of the rating agencies. And they said the housing prices in Dallas are unsustainable.
Oh, no.
They said they're 10
so
or 15%.
So if you're thinking of selling, you better get after it.
Last year they said they were 19% overvalued, and Houston and Austin slowed down considerably. Dallas, North Texas is still on fire.
Yeah, it's like the stock market. We're going into the 9th year. You just wonder if it can continue, and it does. And we always talk about if you have a plan, if you've got your income taken care of and all that, it doesn't matter. I think the same thing with the real estate here. California is so high. New York is so high. We don't have state taxes. I mean, Texas has done a lot of right things, a lot of things well to attract people. And I think as long as we keep attracting people and people are selling at these way overpriced, at least compared to our market, and come in here to a cheaper market, that kind of keeps the prices inflated to an extent. And that could continue for a while, don't you think?
It could. I mean, they're saying this sustainability index is, how much people make.
No, I get it, and I understand the numbers.
It's 55% higher the prices than they were at the peak 2007 before it crashed.
Remember the 80s, right? Mid-80s.
And we've been around long enough around Dallas, and we know it goes up and down.
It will go down.
Don't hesitate to call us. If you have any financial questions, like to take advantage of any of our no-cost, no-obligation services, 972-715-2424. You can always go to our website, ILoveMyRetirement.com. There's some great videos on there, information. We got a break coming up, folks. Stay with us. You're listening to the Common Sense Investing Show on News Radio 1080, KRLD.
Welcome back to the Common Sense Investing Show, hosted by two of the most experienced advisors in the DFW Metroplex, Victor McClure and Guy Allard.
Welcome back to the show. All right, it's time to go over your financial questions. Anytime we get questions, either in person, on the phone, emails, voicemails, and I think it's going to appeal to a broad audience, we're going to share them with you. If you have any financial questions, now remember, we will call you back next week and answer those questions for you, and we're glad to answer anything you have out there. 972-715-2424, or go to ILoveMyRetirement.com. All right, Guy, what's our first question?
I don't know. Let's take a look here. Okay, I've heard you say that a low-cost annuity can help with your retirement. It's hard to understand why putting your money into an annuity can help your retirement. Could you explain it to me as simply as possible?
What?
You talk about the spend-down rate?
Yeah, but I'm trying to figure out a simple way to talk about the spend-down rate.
I know, it didn't start out well.
Well, what happens is, when you save your money for retirement, whatever the number is, say it's $1 million or whatever, right? And you take your Social Security and pensions and all that kind of stuff, and you say, well, I need another $50,000. Okay? So of your expenses, $50,000 out of $1 million is a 5% spend down rate of your assets. And so what an annuity can do, and since you can get so much more income per dollar, let's say I can take $500,000 or whatever and get $50,000 a year from it. That would lower my spend down rate to 0, right? Then when you factor inflation and all these things, the spend down rate is really important. So basically all you're doing is you're allocating a piece of your money to such a high income stream that it will lower the spend down of your other assets. Therefore, it's going to leave you with more money in retirement, during your retirement, after retirement, because you spent less of those retirement savings the whole way. You basically put a super spend on a piece. All right. So, because what happens is if you live long enough, you might have put in $500,000 in this annuity, but you can get $2 or $3 million out in payments.
That's right.
You can't do that in a non-annuity. If you got $500,000, you're going to get $500,000 in payments plus whatever it earns, right?
And I'll take a brief moment here, shamelessly, to throw out a quick commercial. Victor and I both have been doing this for a long time, and these equity-linked annuities since '95 in their inception, and are the top. Some of the top, well qualified, in the country. And you want that type of person or that group with that type of experience doing this for you, because all annuities are not created equal. There's some terrible ones out there.
You got to stay away from the high fee annuities.
I've got a potential client I've been working with last week who is kind of gravitating towards a larger, I'll say it, MetLife, but it's a variable annuity. The fees are high. The income's about 20 to 30% less than they could get with a straight fixed. You don't have control of the money. In other words, once you annuitize, your assets are gone. There's a lot of things. So they work really well, but they're not all created equal.
You have to look at just the facts. How much is it going to pay you? People get all caught up in the bells and whistles and all these things. In other words, if I got $1 million and it's going to pay me $80,000 a year till both me and my wife die, that's a decent number. If it's got all these other things, well, if the market makes 20% a year, you get this. You're like, it's too complicated.
How about having $1 million in something? I'm talking about a variable annuity. And because the fees, because you got to buy these riders for these guarantees, they guarantee a 5% growth, although it's forced annuitization, which we can talk about later. But $1 million, and you've got these riders for these guarantees, so you're paying $30,000 to $35,000 every year in fees. What is that in 10 years?
Oh, yeah.
That's $300,000 to $350,000 you've spent, and you've got this fictitious column because it's an annuitization, payments for life, with no access to a corpus.
You read every variable annuity prospectus, and it'll tell you what your max fees over a 10-year period are. People just don't understand what it's based on, because they'll put the actual what it's based on at the top of the page. At the bottom of the page, they'll show you the fees. I see this all the time. They said, no, it looks right here. It says I'm putting in, $500,000, and it says my maximum fees over 10 years are $7,200. And I said, that's based on 10,000 per 10,000. They go, no way. I go, yeah.
Or if you got to be careful, I've had a client that was given a single life quote on annuity. Obviously, if you're getting payments on one life instead of joint, your spouse, it's a much higher number. This particular gentleman needed a joint life payout, but everything was predicated on a single life.
Unless you don't like your wife anymore.
You can't do that.
Right. Stay away from the joint life.
Even if you don't like your wife, you still can't do that.
Unless you have other things. Like some people have, I got $1 million insurance policy they're going to get, I've got another this. Their mother's worth $50 million. That's different. But I'm talking about a typical couple, husband and wife, and most of the money's in one or the other. You got to make sure you take care of each other. Because you can't trust the government to do it. You better
That's
do it.
back to the boomers.
Oh, yeah.
You got to take care of yourself.
We got a break coming up, folks. Remember, don't hesitate to call us if you need anything at all. 972-715-2424. Or go to ilovemyretirement.com. Stay with us, folks. You're listening to the Common Sense Investing Show on News Radio 1080 KRLD.
Welcome to the Common Sense Investing Show, the home of plain-spoken, no-nonsense answers to your financial questions.
Welcome to the show. Don't hesitate to call us if you have any questions. I wanted a quick thing. Remember, we're offering the Family Love Letter that it shows your relatives, if anything happens to you, where your safe deposit box key is, who owes us this, who do we want to forgive debts for this, my financial advisor is this, my CPA is this one, here's my numbers to my employer. I don't know how many times people have passed away, and it might take years to find all their stuff because they didn't expect to pass
Which
away.
is why probate takes
That's
up
right.
to a year.
So that's why if you can have this place in one central location, that's why we call it the family love letter. I'm writing this letter to my family to help them in time of need. If I get incapacitated, if I pass away, this is a listing of everything we have. Here's a listing of passwords on there, all that kind of stuff. Because they're going to need that stuff. Trying to reproduce it from somebody that's passed away or incapacitated, it gets terrible. Don't hesitate to call us. We'll be more than happy to send you your copy. 972-715-2424. Again, 972-715-2424. Or go to ilovemyretirement.com. All right, Guy, what's our next question? We're answering your questions today.
Very good question.
Right.
Just about every financial expert you hear has been talking about the market, the stock market, going up for years.
Going down for years, right?
Let me redo that again. About every expert is talking about the market ready to make a downturn, right? Because it's been going up for years. And yet the market keeps going up in spite of the fact that they keep saying sooner or later it's going to go down. How could all of you guys be so wrong?
Is it that guy that called earlier?
It's his brother. That's right.
No, they're let me tell you this. There's not one financial advisor in the world, period, that knows where the market's going to go.
That's right.
Let's just put that on the table right there. None of us know. If any of us know, we'd be trillionaires, and you'd never hear our voice. Obviously, nobody knows. But all you can do is go on historical facts and precedents. In other words, the average S&P throughout history has had a P/E ratio of about 14 and a half.
That's right.
It's 25 now. And so pretty much by any metric, it's going to be overvalued. But it can continue to be overvalued, or it can go back to the price can come down. But I'm telling you, eventually, either the price comes down to make the valuation, more legitimate, or earnings have to come up to make the thing.
And look at what you've seen in your lifetime. Right now, we've finished up a few years back with quantitative easing. We've got consistently the lowest interest rates in history. I mean, they've never been this low for this long. And as we talk about on the show, more likely than not, their government's not going to let them go back up and get out of hand because of our debt and all the things that would cause that. So all new circumstances all the time. So the market, one thing it will do is it will show you things it hasn't shown before. But what we talk about when we talked about the possibility of the market going down, and like Victor just said, make no mistake, it will go down. We just can't tell you when. But if you're set up, if you've got a plan, if the income's taken care of and the inflation hedge and the bonds and everything's taken care of, guess what? It doesn't matter to your retirement because you're prepared. That's all we want you to be is prepared.
Exactly right. You've never heard it on this show in decades, us telling you where the market's going to go. We can just give you the facts. It's pointing to a certain direction, but if you're prepared, that's the biggest thing.
Now, we did have it right in 2008 and 2000, right? We called that for years ahead of time. Oh, no, that's another guy on the radio.
All right, what's the next question?
I don't know. Let's take a look. All right. I put all my 401k in the Fidelity 2020 fund. I plan on retiring about that time. So, is that the best way to prepare for retirement since it's autopilot?
Hey, it's better than nothing. A lot of people, they're called target date funds.
Absolutely.
I love Fidelity. That's where my managed accounts are. They're talking about a Fidelity 2020, but all of them have those. I think the Fidelity 2000 fund, 1995 was the first one. I can't remember. But they are basically funds that are supposed to allocate the assets, get them more safe the closer you get to retirement. The only problem is they have pressure. There's political pressure, job pressure for these managers to perform. And so what happened in 2008 to the average 2010 fund, remember, they're going to retire in like a year and a half.
They left too much in the market, didn't they?
They lost 40-something% on average.
Yeah.
Now, wait a minute. I'm supposed to retire in a year and a half. They were supposed to already be putting me mostly safe.
You had $1 million, and now you've got $550,000, $600,000.
Right. And I'm retiring in a year and a half. How's that going to work?
That's right.
That's why I'm not a big fan of target date funds. Not because in theory they should work okay. Because, yeah, if you get safer as you get older, you're taking more risks younger. It's all automatic the way they allocate it. But they're always allocated too much into equities towards they get close to that target date fund. So because of that, I have to do it myself. And it's not as hard as you think. For those of you allocating 401ks and all that, it's not nearly as hard as you think. Remember, use the rule. Whatever your age is, that's the most you should have safe. If you're 70 years old, 70% safe. Very simple. You can go a little bit either way on that, obviously, but those are the rules, okay? Whatever your age is, that's how much you should have safe. Now, the defining safe and defining risk, because I'll have to, so I was only in blue chip stocks, so that was my safe piece.
Got to be safe. Flight to safety.
That's right. Those went down 50% twice in the last 17 years.
Yeah.
Other ones went down more, like the NASDAQ, right?
But if you're captive, Victor and I have made the offer many times, and we'll do it again. If you're captive and you're 50, 55, getting closer to retirement, we can help you make some elections with your 401ks because you are captive to your choices.
Right. If you're under 59.5, you cannot touch. And a lot of people still don't realize to this day, if you're working for a company and still plan on working there for many more years, you can move a 401k or move part of the money out of there and still contribute, keep getting your matches and all that kind of stuff. Don't hesitate to call us at 972-715-2424 or go to ilovemyretirement.com. We got a break coming up. Stay with us, folks. You're listening to the Common Sense Investing Show on News Radio 1080 KRLD.
Welcome back to the Common Sense Investing Show, hosted by two of the most experienced advisors in the DFW Metroplex, Victor McClure and Guy Allard.
That bumper, I think we need to change it. It's still making me feel old. We're the most experienced and most of them. We have at least 30 years each doing this. And so the one thing I was going to spend 1 second on this, we talked about it right before the break, is a lot of people still don't realize if you're still working for a company that you can roll over a big portion or all of it or none of it, right? I always leave some in because I'm going to work for a few more years. At 59.5, regardless if you're leaving the company's not going to get mad at you. It has nothing to do. What happened was a Supreme Court rule about, 10 or 15 years ago that you can sue your employer for lack of choices. And so all the providers said, wait a minute. At 59.5, you can get out of here.
You make your own choice.
That's right.
And if I can add, one of the things missing in the choices that you'll have, regardless of the group, it's been my experience, I don't think that any of them really offer you an income alternative unless the plan itself has some sort of lump sum pension offering at the end of the term. So there's no way for you to get that taken care of. And even if at 59.5 you plan on working to 65 or so, if you plan for that income part, which is obviously a sliver or a portion of your total retirement account, and you get that deferring now, and you have 10 years to let that defer, 60 to 70, it can almost double on almost a guaranteed basis to provide income. So you need to put less away if you do it at 59.5 than you would if you waited to 65 or
That's
so.
Right, a lot less.
Yeah, I mean,
Start
you'd be
planning
surprised.
this stuff with you people about to turn 59, or definitely if you're over 59, you got it. But once you get 59, you need to start looking at your alternative. Sometimes it makes a whole lot of sense. Sometimes it does not, and we can go over that with you. Our number 972-715-2424. All right, what's our next question, Guy?
You caught me off guard. I was getting all excited.
Put your readers
about that. Yeah, got my exactly. All right. When should you consider permanent insurance over term insurance?
I hear people all the time say, term, you should never do that other expensive crap. Well, sometimes you should. For young people, for replacing, income or a thing, let's say I'm a 40-year-old person, I've got kids in school, and I'm going to pass away, my kid's going to have a heck of a hardship. Well, term's fine. There's nothing wrong with term for stuff like that because there's going to be a point when you're not going to need it. The kids are all grown, everything else, right?
Your income grows.
You're buying it for a term.
That's right.
Other kinds of things, let's say you're going to pay for an estate tax or something like that. Permanent insurance, a buy-sell agreement. Let's say your partnership with somebody at a business and you don't want, if they get remarried or whatever, to be involved in your business. So basically it says when they pass away, the insurance policy pays their heirs. So they're getting the value of the business. In an insurance policy, the remaining person is now owned 100% of it or whatever. Those need permanent policies, because what happens is when you have a policy that needs to go a long period of time, not like term, your kid's grown up, you don't need it anymore, right? This is something that has to keep going. The cost of insurance gets so high when you're 75 years old, you will not keep the thing going. You'll stop.
And kind of like you've heard us talk about IRAs, should you convert it to a Roth? Most of the time, no, but there's some really neat times and some neat things you can do with tax-free income. Same thing with permanent insurance. If you're heavy in cash flow and you're young and you're healthy, give them the example that on that case that you wrote up for the younger fellow, if you put X amount away for like 10 years, the amount of tax-free income that you get.
It was like, it wasn't even that much. It was like $50,000 a year for 10 years, gets them like $100,000 a year tax.
And then you let it defer for another 10, 15 years. So $50,000 a year for 10 years, and then you let it defer for another 10 years, and roughly how much was it?
I can't even remember now, but it was a lot.
Was it close to six figures?
Close, yeah. It's amazing what
But it's got to be the right circumstance. Everyone can't do that. And you got to be heavy in cash
remember,
flow.
you talk to the life insurance guys. Oh my gosh, that's
right.
Every solution to your problem is going to be life insurance.
And they give you an example like an 8%. Well, if it only earns 8% a year, this is what you'll have.
You'll get them when they said, well, should I do more? Well, of course you should.
That's right.
No. Insurance isn't for everybody. I had clients this week said, we got these policies. They're starting to get eat up because of the cost of insurance is getting high. We're now 70 years old. And I said, but our guy says we need them. Maybe you need to purchase more. I go, okay, you have this much money. I've already done an analysis for the rest of your life. You can't run out. Why are you paying insurance premiums? Your kids are all grown. They're 40s and 50s. I mean, well, because if I die, it's double what the cash value is. I go, that cash value, by the way, is going to be eaten up by your life insurance premiums. You know that, right?
That's right.
And so you don't need to be paying life insurance premiums at 70-something years old. Not owning a business is not for estate taxes or anything like that. If it's just for a death benefit, I see this all the time. I see 75-year-olds. I'm like, why are you still paying this premium? Well, the guy told me I should always do that. I'm like, Remember, life insurance people are good people, usually good at life insurance, not the best financial advisors. And so that's why I always tell people, I go, when I talk about financial people, I want independent.
Yep.
Number one, I don't want to have they're hawking proprietary products and they get fired if they don't.
That's right.
Proprietary products usually aren't the best, period.
Well, they're the best in fees.
Right. They also have to do everything. In other words, if they're just doing annuities and life insurance, every solution to your problem is going to be annuities and life insurance.
Absolutely.
If they're just doing stocks, what's the one? He said his mother would rather rot in hell than sell an annuity.
That's right.
Only does stocks. If somebody does all of them and then compensating all of them, that's the kind of advisor. That's where you start. Don't hesitate to call us, 972-715-2424. Again, 972-715-2424. Our website is ilovemyretirement.com. I want to thank everybody for listening today. I'm Victor McClure for Guy Allert. We always appreciate your time.
The preceding show is paid for by McClure Capital and is for informational purposes only and not a solicitation or representation of any particular investment product or service. Any views and opinions do not constitute financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult with your appropriate professionals before making any investment or savings decisions. Always consider your risk tolerance, time horizon, and objectives in making any financial decisions. There is never any guarantee of future success or performance.
The preceding was a paid commercial program paid for by McClure Capital Wealth Management Companies and does not reflect the opinions or advice of KRLD or CBS Radio.